What's up? I'm Andrew from the band Ripped to Shreds, and today we are going to be looking at Ohio Grindcore Iceberg, organized by how well known these bands are. But first, a word from our sponsor.
I'm Gene Meyer, and these bands are certified from Ohio.
Sulphuric Cautery is the hottest gore grind band in America right now. Heavily influenced by Squamish band Shooting Spree, in addition to Fetopsy and Last Days of Humanity, they've gone through 3 lineups, with the last 2 being based in Los Angeles, but their first lineup, and my personal favorite material, is when they were based out of Dayton. Drummer Isaac hails from Canada, where he was also in Hyperemesis before moving to Ohio. There, he linked up with Mr. Trashcan of Pizza High Five on guitar, producing several splits and EPs, before releasing their masterpiece album Chainsaws Clogged with the underdeveloped brain matter of Xenophobes. Isaac also produced several anti-music fests in Dayton, bringing in bands like Bodies Lay Broken, Harlan Band No. 69, The Men's Toilet, Harlan Band No. 420, and even Extremely Brutal, featuring myself and Dan from Archgathis, as well as Harlan. Sometime in 2021, Isaac moved to Los Angeles, where Martin of Volvaessers became the new guitarist, producing a new album, Suffocating Feats of Dehumanization, and now Derek of Casket Mush is a current guitarist/vocalist.
Licking mental patients come off the sheets.
Hemdale was an early gore grind band from Mentor, starting in the early 90s. They never released a full length, but had multiple splits with bands like Exit 13, Exhumed, and Hemorrhage. They were tuned extremely low, to G or even F, which was probably the lowest any band tuned to at that time, and bassist vocalist Matt Rossitano had some of the deepest natural vocals without a pitch shifter. Their music leaned more towards death metal than punk, often contrasting tremolo riffs with slower doomy sections with very little dB. Drummer Craig also ran Visceral Productions, signing bands like Exhumed, Nile, or Adramelech, for the label went belly up, and they were bought out by Relapse, which at the time was co-run by Exit 13 singer Bill Yurkiewicz. Apartment 213 is a power violence/grind band from Cleveland that started in the early 90s. They played an extremely fast punky style rooted in hardcore, producing a series of splits with bands like Dahmer, Benumb, and Forced Expression. As a side note, Forced Expression is one of my favorite things that Daryl Cahan from Funebrarium was part of. They broke up and reformed several times, reunited to release a full-length in 2006 titled Cleveland Power Violence. The most recent reformation for live shows includes Martin from Volvaessers on guitar and Jay from Harm and Cave State on drums. Pizza High Five was a 2-piece grindcore band from Lima from the mid-2000s until the mid-2010s. With Mr. Trashcan on guitars and vocals and Greasy Mike on drums, they helped define the Midwest mincecore/grindcore sound through many tours and splits with bands like Lieutenant Dan, Misanthropic Noise, Power Cup, or Archgathis. It's hard for me to be objective about this band because I love Trashy and his punk riffs. Greasy Mike had a very slippery style of drumming that would alternate between blasting and D-beats, and violent stop-start arrangements. The Leather Shop in Lima hosted many grind and punk bands that toured through Ohio over the years, although Trashy finally closed it down recently. Mike has since moved to North Carolina, where he plays in fastcore band Negative Bias. Normally I wouldn't mention this band at all, but there were some wider implications from the Dayton shooting in 2019 that I felt were important to note. The shooter did live vocals in the porno grind band Menstrual Munchies, and many news outlets attempted to link the shooter and their motives to their choice of music. As a result, Bandcamp temporarily restricted the ability to search for gore grind music on their platform. And this wasn't the first time that Bandcamp had taken such an action. Harsh Noise Wall was mass restricted the year before Bandcamp claimed that they had erroneously prevented anyone from searching for those releases because they thought it was a spam genre tag. To my knowledge, Bandcamp hasn't ever commented on what happened with Gore Grind, but given the timing, I think it was obviously a response to the Dayton shooting. The reason that I have a 2 in the HGT Bandcamp URL is because the first HGT Bandcamp became invisible, and I was concerned about losing everything if Bandcamp decided to permanently ban gore grind. So I only ever tagged the new one as J-pop. And at the same time, Haggis had repeatedly had problems with Bandcamp restricting or deleting their page, even after they censored the gore in their cover art. And in the wake of the shooting, it appeared that they were banned from using Bandcamp altogether, which led Hambone to create his own website hosting Haggis releases for free. Coupleskate is a gore grind band from Lima that's been active since 2010. Featuring Trashy on drums, they played extremely low-tuned, dancey, mincecore, groove-based gore. Guitarist Ryan also plays an 8-string guitar, which takes them down to F-sharp, and vocalist Kyle uses the famed Digitech Vocal 300 effects processor. They produce splits with bands like Girth, Botched, Anastomus, J-Pouch, Haggis, and recently performed at Maryland Death Fest. They also drove all the way out to Columbus to help save a show that fell through when Rip to Shreds was on tour in Ohio. Singer Kyle also did some live vocals with Nuclear Hellfrost, a band most infamous for hilariously desecrating the grave of well-known racist Dimebag Darrell of the white power band Pantera. Drogeda is a grindcore band hailing from Doylestown that started in '93. Their name is the name of a town in Ireland, but I can't confirm if the members are actually Irish. They released many splits and EPs, but probably their most well-known release is their album Pogromist that came out on Wild Rags Records. The blast beats here, I think, are remarkable for being in the 240 to 250 BPM range in 1995. The truly absurdly fast drummers didn't really start to become common until the late 90s and early 2000s. The first Nile album was around 220, same as Terrorizer was back in '89. While Flo from Cryptopsy was faster, his blasting was also extremely sloppy. And if you look at the isolated multi-tracks from None So Wild, his hands and feet are totally out of sync. I'm not sure if Drogeda is still active now, but they were playing live shows at least as late as 2015. Preparation H was a grindcore band from Cleveland that started in '92 by brothers Dan and Klaus. They had several splits with bands like Wadge, Agathocles, and Cripple Bastards before calling it quits in '98, and then restarted several times in the 2000s and 2020s as Preparation X. Their styles have varied from release to release, from punky fastcore to silly random interludes in the style of Final Exit, and also doomy slow parts in between the grind parts, with the nonsense humor ad-libs common to many early 90s punk bands. Schnauzer was a grindcore band from Parma since '88. They described themselves as scrap metal. They didn't fall neatly into any grind or punk subgenre, but pulled little bits of influence from everything. They're also well known for featuring prolific drummer Jim Sadist, who also played in Nunslaughter as well as Nine Shocks Terror and Apartment 213. They put out a wide range of splits. I personally like the one with Punching Moses a lot. Moiskis, a gore grind band from Dayton since 2020. Possibly unique among Ohio bands for not actually releasing any splits. They play in a modern, hyper-blasting style, mixing brutal slam riffs in between incomprehensible gravity ping snare hits and low gurgling pitch shifter vocals. Landfill is a grindcore band from Dayton since the mid-2020s, featuring both Ryan, who did vocals in the Ohio lineup of Sulphuric Cautery, as well as Trashcan. But I believe that Will of Methalab Explosion is the main person and the drummer behind the band. They put out a whole bunch of splits with bands like Suppression, Sidetracked, Fedash, and Reek and Cross. Fumigated was a short-lived grindcore band from Dayton from 2018 to 2020. It featured Ryan from Couplescape and James from Lunk on guitars with Greasy Mike on drums. They played Marauder-style hardcore beatdown riffs with Greasy Mike's unique blasting. They only put out a single EP and some splits, including one with Cody from Sangui Sugabog's side project Death Fetish, as well as the next band on this iceberg. Sewage Grinder was a two-piece grind band from Cincinnati since the 2010s. These dudes show up on, every single Ohio show flyer that I've seen in the last 10 years. They've got a huge amount of splits and EPs, but they actually put out a full-length record, including one this year called Pissed. I think they lie a little more on the punk side of things, with fast stop-start arrangements that remind me a bit of Yakopse, a distinctive high yell, and a lot of strummed power chord riffs. Envenomed was an extremely short-lived fastcore band from Cincinnati that released a demo and a 7-inch in 2003 before ending. What they lacked in longevity, they made up with in furious punk energy, contrasting lower, brutal truth-style growls with high screeches. Minch was a noisecore band from Parma that started in 1990. They probably shouldn't be this far down the iceberg, but I personally don't really like noisecore. Again, featuring Jim Sadist on drums, they put out some EPs on legendary defunct label Seraphic Decay Records. They sounded kind of like Fear of God, but not as interesting. Orchiopexy was a raw core grind band from Dayton since the 2010s. Guitarist Dylan, who now does his one-man band Nyctophagia out of El Paso, Texas, played raw punky riffs and occasionally more brutal slam-style riffs on top of Sulphuric Cautery's Isaac's pink blasting. However, this band is much punkier with an emphasis on D-beats, and there's none of Isaac's now signature hyperblasting or gravity blasts. From the four-way split with Metis, Solsa, and Nasty Face onwards, they had Jesse on bass, who was a prolific musician that was also the main musical force behind Menstrual Munchies. For obvious reasons, he deleted all the music for that band off the internet and is working on various other projects now. Scrotal Erosion is a new gore grind band from Dayton since 2023. Ryan from Sulphuric Cautery did the pitch-shifted Girly on the first two releases. While the drummer for this band is obviously influenced by the way Isaac played in Sulphuric, with the way that the regular blasts and short gravity blasts are arranged, there is a much bigger emphasis on D-beat and mid-paced groove beats. Guitarist Joey, he also plays in Moiscus, alternates between Texas-style brutal DM riffs and punk strumming, but he never brings slams to this project. Lunk is a now defunct bodybuilding-themed two-piece gore grind band from Lima that was active in the late 2010s. It featured Greasy Mike on drums and James from Landfill and Fumigated on guitar and vocals, but there's actually no pitch shifters utilized here, just regular low monotone low grunts. While the riffs are definitely tough, they aren't hardcore influenced, more like early 90s Hemorrhage. Although I'm biased, my favorite material of theirs is the split with Mixima. Cheap Gas is a black punk / grind band from Dayton since 2020, featuring Jen Lazarus of Vomitoma on vocals on the first record and Ryan from Sulfuric on the second. They have no splits at all. Vocals in general are extremely verby, and guitars have kind of a similar vibe to Bone Owl or Suffer, interspersed with some grind riffing and blasting. Songs are pretty long, and they've got a new record coming out in September. Reptile is a gore grind band from Toledo since the 2020s. They have some similar vibes to Lunk, with a tin can snare and jarring shifts in tempo, but with pitch-shifted vocals and more conventional blasting. There are also some min-score tupa-tupa moments, but it's mostly blasting. They've got one EP out now and a new split with me coming out soon. Putrid Liquid is a gore grind band from Dayton since 2016, featuring Regan from Moist Kiss on drums. Earlier material was more conventionally gore grind, while newest releases are a little bit more brutal death metal. And the vocals are atypical croaking rather than pitch-shifted gurgling. Nauseating Repugnance is a one-man drum machine gore grind band by Trashcan since 2019. He has a demo and several splits and also performs live. Trashy takes full advantage of the drum machine here. Rather than trying to imitate a human drummer and keep tempos and blasts plausibly performable, everything is cranked up to ludicrous speeds, beyond what is physically possible. There's a wide range of vocal styles applied, and the guitars typically play some kind of tremolo riff with some of the signature Pizza High Five style stop-starts. And that's all for today, folks. I hope you guys learned something new. And the next Rip to Shreds show is going to be in Los Angeles, 9/20 with Mutilatred. There's going to be deathmatch wrestling. It's like a charity benefit. So come on out. I hope to see you all there. Peace.